Today I am bringing you a list of my most anticipated book releases for 2026. I have put together a list of 20 books, all mostly by authors that I've read from in the past. There's one exception. I do have another book by this author on my TBR, which I'm hoping to get to soon. And when you hear the synopsis and you see the cover for this particular book, you're going to understand why it's on my radar. So we're going to get stuck into the video. I've tried to group these books based on genre, and I've also split the video in half. So we're going to start with some standalones, and then I'll talk about some sequels towards the end of the video. First up, we have A Box Full of Darkness by Simone St. James. This is about siblings who return to the house they fled from 18 years before, and they've been called back by the ghost of their long missing brother. I'm assuming it's a literal ghost, because Simone St. James does typically have some paranormal or supernatural elements in their books, and I'm hoping that this is like the previous book that I read from them, where it contributes to the atmosphere but it's not used as like a twist, or it doesn't feel convenient, because that's something that I don't typically like. I do like a spooky atmosphere, and I feel like Simone St. James does that quite well. Next up is Dead in the Water by John Mars. I feel a bit on the fence about this one because I love John Mars's sci-fi thrillers. I love the One series and all of the books set within that universe. However, typically I haven't enjoyed his other thrillers as much, but this one does sound intriguing. It's about a guy who survives a near drowning and his life flashes before his eyes. Every memory is crystal clear except for one. He has this vision of a dead boy, a face he can't place, and he doesn't remember living this memory, so he's trying to work out what exactly he saw. Is it actually a memory that he's forgotten, or is it something else? The Future Saints by Ashley Winstead, to me, doesn't actually sound like a thriller, even though this author has written thrillers in the past. I think they've also written romance. It has the feeling of a Taylor Jenkins Reid book. It's described as perfect for fans of Daisy Jones and the Six and In 5 Years, which are two books that I liked. In 5 Years I enjoyed a bit more than Daisy Jones, but it's about a music executive who is desperately trying to bring a rock band back from the brink. So it's about the music industry and a band that is trying to get back on track after their manager has passed away. Hopefully this lives up to my expectations, because it has a lot of buzzwords that are really calling to me. Her Last Breath by Taylor Adams is another thriller from the author of No Exit and The Last Word, two very fast-paced thrillers that I did enjoy, and the synopsis for this one intrigues me. It's about a main character whose best friend convinces her to go caving, and I say best friend, it sounds like they met in high school and then drifted apart and they're now living very different lives, and this trip goes very wrong and maybe they end up trapped down there. Sounds very claustrophobic, and I hope the stakes feel as high as they sound. Catriona Ward is one of my favourite authors, and she has a new book coming out next year. It's called Nowhere Burning, and this follows a main character called Riley, who in the middle of the night pulls her younger brother Oliver out of bed and they run away from home. The intention is that they're going to join a group of teenagers who are squatting in the abandoned ruins of an infamous movie star's ranch. This ranch is nestled in the Rocky Mountains, and Riley is hoping that they're going to find a new family there. However, maybe she realises that they've jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire, because these kids are fiercely defensive of their turf. And yeah, it does sound like it's going to be quite intense, and that's what I've enjoyed about this author's previous books. Caller Unknown by Gillian McAllister follows a mother and daughter who go on a trip to Texas, and the daughter goes missing. So it's about the main character's desperation to find her. Honestly, this sounds a bit generic. It's a bit of a basic premise. However, I have enjoyed the other two books that I've read by this author, and it's described in the synopsis as unbearably tense, compassionately told, and full of well-crafted moral dilemmas. That last part about the moral dilemmas is what concerns me, because I'm worried that the main character is going to irritate me. If she keeps putting herself in danger and starts acting recklessly, then that is something that I usually don't like, but we'll see. Hopefully I will enjoy this as much as this author's previous books. Heart of Glass by Jennifer Hillier I am expecting to be a very dark thriller, because that's what Jennifer Hillier typically writes. It says here that 25 years ago, a serial killer dubbed the Carnival Killer confessed to the murder of a local high school girl. Now he's taken back that confession. So we're following the best friends of the murdered girl, and they are confronting what actually happened back then. I've had some mixed experiences with Jennifer Hillier's previous books. However, typically I have liked her most recent releases, and I'm hoping to get this on audio because I've also found that I tend to enjoy her books more when I listen to them versus reading them physically. Moving into fantasy books, and first up we have Agnes Auber's Mystical Cat Shelter by Heather Fawcett. This is by the author who wrote the Emily Wilde series, which I do have on my TBR. I've not read anything by this author, so it's a bit of a wild card putting this on the list, but the synopsis for this sounds so adorable. It's described as a heartwarming, cozy fantasy about a woman who runs a cat rescue in 1920s Montreal, and she has to turn to a grouchy but charming wizard in order to help save the shelter. Sign me up. But I love this cover. I love the sound of a cozy fantasy. First of all, set in the 1920s, which I love, and I mean, it's about cats. That's all I need to know. Cleopatra by Sarah Alarifi is, I think, a standalone. This is described as a powerful and sweeping reimagining of the Egyptian queen, which counters the accusations made against her, because we know that sometimes historical accounts of women, they're a little bit biased. And I went to an author event with this author earlier this year where she briefly talked about this book, and it sounded amazing. It had me so excited to pick it up. The amount of research that must have gone into this, I'm expecting really good things. Speaking of things, Green and Deadly Things by Jen Lyon is, I believe, another standalone fantasy coming out next year. It's described as a page-turning fantasy of necromancy and magical mayhem. I haven't read the Ruin of Kings series by this author, but I did read The Sky on Fire, I think it was last year, and I thought it was good. I thought there was potential for me to like other books by this author. I liked the world building. The Ruin of Kings series is quite long, so I think I want to try another standalone by this author first. And hopefully I will enjoy it. The synopsis, to be honest, sounds a bit convoluted and complicated, so that's why I've just given you that short little summary. But yeah, I have generally heard good things about this author. I mean, I've read one of their books and liked it, so hopefully this will be a win for me. This next book, I'm not sure what the genre is, but Celestial Lights by Cecile Pin is, I think, a sci-fi, which is interesting because this author's previous book that I read, Wandering Souls, I think it was called, that was historical fiction. This is about an astronaut who is contacted by a billionaire to lead a mission to the distant moon Europa. Throughout this mission, he reflects on his life and will the world he remembers still be waiting for him when he returns. So sounds like it's going to be quite poignant, and I do tend to like sci-fi that deals with that, so very intrigued by this one. Half His Age by Jeanette McCurdy is another one that I'm very curious about. Jeanette McCurdy wrote the biography I'm Glad My Mom Died, which I thought was fantastic. This, I believe, is going to be literary fiction. It's described as a rich character study following a 17-year-old who I think develops an obsession with her creative writing teacher. I think this is going to be quite messy and complex, and I'm very intrigued to see what Jeanette McCurdy does with this, because I'm Glad My Mom Died was fantastic, and I was very curious to see that she'd written a fiction book. Alexandria Bellfleur is one of my favourite sapphic romance authors, and she has a new book coming out next year. It's called Playing for Keeps. It's described as a steamy sapphic rom-com about two rival publicists who are forced to work together when their clients begin to date. It feels very Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce coded, and I do love books about fame. I think what's interesting about this one is that the romance isn't between the two famous people, it's about the people who work for them. Another sapphic romance coming out next year that's on my radar is Get Over It, April Evans by Ashley Herring Blake. This is technically the second book in the Clover Lake series, and I haven't read the first book yet. Delilah Green and Ashley Parker are two of my favourite romance books of all time. The third book in the Bright Falls series I didn't like as much. I thought it was just okay, and then I DNF'd Ashley Herring Blake's Christmas book, hated it. So I've been a little bit cautious about picking up more of their books, but I think this sounds cute. It's following a main character whose fiance left her for another woman 3 years ago. Actually, now that I'm reading the synopsis, it doesn't sound cute, it sounds a bit messy. But this main character ends up taking a summer job where her co-worker is the woman who stole her ex-fiance, and even worse, it's clear she has no idea who she is. So she's being really hostile to this poor woman who is thinking, why does she hate me? And I'm guessing the romance goes from there. Let me know actually if you read the first book in the series and what you thought of it. I feel like I just need to get over myself and give it a try. That concludes all of the standalones that are on my radar, and now now I'm going to quickly go through some of the series or continuations in series that I'm excited for. First up, Body of Lies by Joe Callahan. This is, I think, the final book in the Cat and Lock series, and I am so excited for this. The way that the last book ended, I am so intrigued as to what direction this series is going in. If you don't know, this is a series following a police detective who is paired up with an AI detective, and it very much shows both sides of things, how AI can help the police, but also how there are some limitations. For example, as a human, the main character is much better at reading people. Also love that this is set in the Midlands, and the narrator for the audiobooks does Midlands accents for various characters, and it just feels very comforting. I really like how this is set near where I live, and I believe that Joe Callahan is also a fairly local author to me. Benjamin Stevenson also has a new book coming out next year. It's called Everyone in This Bank is a Thief. It says here the fourth book in the Ernest Cunningham series. I'm assuming it's taking into account the Christmas novella, which I haven't read yet. I should read it because it's the perfect time of year, but I read the first two books in this series earlier this year and really enjoyed them. The first book is called Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone. It's really fun, it's very self-aware, and it breaks the fourth wall, which normally I don't like. However, it just has that kind of fun tone to it, and also the first two books have some twists that I didn't see come in, so if you're looking for a fun mystery series, then I would recommend this. Like I said, the writing style is an acquired taste, but maybe if you can hear a sample or read a sample, then it'll give you a good idea of what to expect. The Ballad of Falling Dragons by Sarah A. Parker is the sequel to When the Moon Hatched, which I read a couple of years ago. This is a fantasy romance that I felt had a good balance between fantasy and romance. Really liked the world building in this. I thought the world was just fascinating. The romance was a bit rushed for my liking, so I'm a bit nervous about that going into book two. I do feel like I need to do a reread of book one before going into book two, because there was a lot of setup in that first book, and I want to have that fresh in my mind before reading the sequel. It has been a bit of a wait for this one, and I'm glad that it's finally come in. Another sequel I feel like I've been waiting ages for is The Tapestry of Fate by Shannon Chakraborty. This is the second book in the Amina Al-Sarafi series. I am again tempted to reread book one before going into book two, even though I feel like book one does wrap up enough that it could be considered a standalone story. I read this physically the first time. I was thinking about trying the audiobooks. As a brief synopsis, it follows a retired pirate who is convinced to do one last quest, and the story goes from there. It's set on the seas, it has obviously a pirate theme, and I had a lot of fun with the first book, and I'm hoping that the second book is going to be just as fun. The Lion and the Deathless Dog by Carissa Broadbent is the next book in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. I'm a little bit nervous about this one because I didn't like the previous book in this series. However, it's a new duology, it's a clean slate, and I'm hoping that this is a true slow burn, because the main issue I had with the last book is that I didn't care about the romance anymore and I found it quite boring. Deadbeat by Lee Bardugo is another sequel I feel like we've been waiting quite a while for. This is the third and I believe final book in the Alex Stern series. I loved Ninth House. I gave it 5 stars when I read it. I think it was back in 2021. However, I hated Hellbent. I didn't like how fast paced it was and how it was very action driven. I felt like it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't what I loved about the first book. The first book was such a clever mystery. It has this academic setting. The second book was a miss for me. However, do I want to complete the series? Yes. I just don't want to reread the first 2 books in order to do that. So we'll see if I do get round to this one. That does bring me to the end of this list. So thank you for watching. If you made it this far, let me know in the comments any of your anticipated releases and what you think about the books that I've mentioned in this video, whether you're also looking forward to them. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye!